Here we go again.
Hello, Cleveland! Hello, Cleveland! And hello, Cleveland! How is everybody? I am Diana Clarion, the Lavender Lady. This is an overlay from something else. This is actually a little special show. And we're here to tell you all about something called QPR. I was talking to a compadre a while ago. She had mentioned something about QPR, and I had no idea in the world what that was. So I asked, and she started explaining it to me. And I still don't quite get it, so we're bringing some people here on air, and I'll ask all kinds of questions, and they'll give me all the answers. And hopefully, I can learn a little something, and hopefully, everybody else will as well. With me is, first of all, the one, the only, the brilliant, the beautiful Triateyal. How are you, honey?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, actually. It's been a while since I've been on your channel, so
Yes,
I'm kind of glad to
unfortunately.
be back.
Yay! We got to do something about having you around more. Yeah, one of those deals. And yeah, you are the person who is responsible for my confusion. So we're gonna be talking to you
Yeah,
a
well,
lot.
I mean, anybody who's seen me on your channel realizes that I cause a lot of that, so
And also a person I have just met today, who Tria suggested might have some things to say here. We have Alhana with us. Hi, Alhana. How are you? Tell me all about yourself and how cool you are.
Hi, all. I'm Alhana, known as Trans Gamer Girl on YouTube, or Phenomenal Lass on Twitter. No, not Twitter, on Twitch.
Ah,
Um, I'm a autistic trans girl. I'm asexual. I'm a geek, and yeah, that's me.
you pretty much cover all the bases there. All right. I'm so glad to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll just throw up the I'll throw up the jump ball, and I will say, okay, what is QPR?
um I guess I'll take it. For yeah, what a QPR is it is a um committed relationship that describes something that's more between that isn't 100% platonic but isn't 100% romantic either, and it's kind of got elements of romantic. It can have elements of romance in it or have things that people assume are romantic but aren't necessarily romantic for the people involved is my best way of describing it. um
Ah, okay. So those last three words kind of helped me a little bit because I was always wondering. Yeah, you're saying that there are the romantic elements, there are the platonic elements. What is it that separates the QPR
right.
from the others? You know, gives it's. But you're saying for the people involved, that's what does it.
Right. Yeah, it's basically outlined by the people involved. It's
Uh,
it's and again, people from the outside looking in might look and say, "Oh, that's just being friends," or "Oh, that's romance." But
Uh,
there's not necessarily there's generally not romance involved as far as the people that are in that relationship are involved. Um and it's kind of complicated because people in my experience tend to want to oversimplify and put things either in a friendship box or a romantic box,
yep.
and that doesn't necessarily work for a lot of people.
I
mhm.
admit that I fall into that. Ohana, you sound like you may have a little something to say. Are you in a queer platonic relationship, if I may?
Not right now. It's the sort of relationship that I've realised that would be more perfect for me, because essentially I've only really recently realised that I'm asexual and aromantic. For a
Aha.
long time, I was in denial. I thought that my last relationship that I was in that ended very, very badly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Um, but when I went into the relationship, the way that me and my partner were talking at the time, there was going to be nothing sexual about it, and we were friends before anything else. Only that's not how it ended up, and
Oops.
yeah, it became terribly abusive,
Oh
mentally
no,
and
I'm so sorry.
emotionally. But yeah, for me, the sort of relationship I have, because romance confuses me. I'm completely. I don't care about sex at all. I can take it or leave it. I can do it, but I prefer not to.
Okay.
So for me, the sort of relationship, it's more than just a friendship, not quite a romantic relationship. Um, yeah, there can be physical affection, not necessarily sex, as we say,
Mm-hmm.
um, but not necessarily having to spend all your free time together. You can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, something that I've relayed a lot in the past, and I'll reiterate again, to me, my friendships are as deep as far as the feeling on my end, are as deep as a lot of people claim are their romantic feelings are.
Oh, I can
Mm,
Um,
understand that.
and
Yeah.
that confused the hell out of me growing up
yeah.
because I didn't feel romantic feelings. I still don't. I never have. But because I felt a desire for partnership on occasion, because
Mhm.
because it comes and goes. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, partner would be great, and other times I'm like, I am so glad that I don't have anyone.
Puño.
Fuck
Puño.
off. Yeah, fuck off. Nope, I don't. But the thing is that like it confused me because I thought I had romantic crushes. I thought that but to be honest, for me, that line between friendship and partnerships is often really blurry and hard to
Mhm.
discern
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because and it's not necessarily that that I'm that all of my relationships and friendships are that blurry. It's just because every time I hear somebody go, "Oh, this is what romance is," I'm like, "But I feel that deeply about my friends." And also, why is it different when it's with your partner?
Aye.
Mm.
Because like stuff like going out to dinner, you go out to dinner and you have like it's you and your partner, and there's like candlelight and this and that and the other, and to me I'm like, what is the difference between that and me grabbing my best friend and going off and having dinner? The feeling is the same to me.
Okay.
It's
Aye.
Yes, I
but
can
if you but
understand.
if you but if you look at it from the outside and you see a partner and somebody eating a nice you see two people eating a nice dinner, a lot of times people from the outside looking in will be like, "Well, that's romantic." And I'm like, "How? I don't understand."
Ah. Oh, just to let everybody know, a little fair warning here. The neighborhood is shot. Stools here. Oh, my. So it's possible then that I may have been in at least one of these QPRs and never knew that there was a term for it. Yeah, because I could.
That can happen too.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, it's
Mhm.
not a very well-known term. Even out even within the queer community as a whole, a lot of people don't understand what QPRs are or how they work. In fact, the majority of the people that I have had trouble with who have told me that we're just making stuff up and like things along that nature are other queer people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get half the amount of problems talking about this from people who aren't queer as I do people who are.
Now that's
And it's
interesting.
entirely frustrating. It is
Uh-huh.
extremely frustrating. And people who will accept asexuality often will not accept for certain forms of aromanticism
Mm-hmm.
and the relationship styles that fall under aromanticism. It is so weird to see.
Yeah, it seems that people assume that if you're aromantic but you're allosexual, you're just using people for sex, and
Yeah,
well,
and QPRs can have sex because
mm-hmm.
not everybody in them is asexual. And even if
Aye.
they are, some aces don't mind or enjoy sex.
Mm-hmm.
So you it's not an asexual thing. It's something that's related but different enough. The thing is that people will be like, "Oh, well, yeah, well, I like hanging out with my friends too." And I'm like, "I don't think you understand the level of commitment that is often involved in these QPRs." Like,
Mm-hmm.
people will write wills, people will raise children together. People will say, "Hey, this is my partner. They need to be, helping me make medical decisions." Those sorts of things. And that's stuff you typically don't do with with your, average everyday friends.
Yeah. Um. Oh, there we go. What do we have here? Oh, this is interesting. Our dear friend, a very stable milking stool, has just put up a link in the side chat. www.qpr.co.uk. So I take it that this may be a site that gives some people some information. I know you gave me a site, Tria, and I ended up a little bit more
Yeah.
confused coming out of it than I did going into it. But then that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's me, you
Well,
know.
and the thing
a
was
very
that
um,
part. Oh, go ahead, Alhana.
sorry, before we go, a very stable milking stall. It's kind of a bit of a troll. They've just linked to the website for the football team, Queens Park
Oh,
Rangers.
jeez.
Yeah, Stool is a bit of a troll, but
He's a low
yeah,
level troll.
the thing was that and this is why I was glad when you actually asked to discuss this, because a lot of times if you don't have the experience and you read what it is, it gets very confusing.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that I live this shit and I'm confused by it all the time.
Oh my word. Because
So I don't blame people who look at me kind of like what the hell? What is this kind of
mm-hmm.
deal? Um and for me, I haven't been in a QPR, but if I were to if I were to actually try to have a relationship again, this is the kind of style that I would want. Where the other person realizes that it's not romantic, that they're not going to get anything romantic out of me because it's draining. I feel like it's a performance.
Okay.
Um like pretending to be something that I'm not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that level of companionship actually sounds kind of cool if I found somebody um that I liked enough to do so.
Yeah, it does sound interesting to me, actually, because I'm at the point where I've pretty much had it with romance. Any romantic relationship I've been in has ended badly, and I think, Alhana, you were talking to me about that in the green room. Um, and it may be the better thing. And a lot of people, I think, may find it's the better thing to have something like this is just getting past the the compartmentalization, the pigeonholes.
Yeah, because
Uh,
much like a lot of other things, people want to set it on a binary. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that humans don't work that way. And the quicker people learn that putting it in one box or the other doesn't work, the quicker we'll get to a point where we all understand each other, I think, a little bit better. Also, something I want to point out before we go too much further, you do not have to be a romantic to be in a QPR. You don't, not, neither party I, has to be a romantic. They just have to not fit the traditional boxes of either or.
Ah,
I I do know a few people who are in QPRs who are not romantically involved, and not romantically attracted to each other is better wording. But they're you don't have to be aromantic. However, if you I do think that if you are not aromantic and you get yourself involved, you should very quickly learn about the aromantic community and should do your best to support them.
well, yeah, I have the feeling that, okay, if you're not ARO when you're going in, the other thing that might happen is there might be the severe temptation to try to turn that QPR into a romantic relationship. And I take
And
it that's not the
there's
best thing off.
honestly, well, the thing is that depending on the people involved, that can happen, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. As
mhm.
long as people are open about what is going on and open about their feelings, which is the most important part of any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
what I was basically thinking was, a one-sided affair where, the one person who's a romantic wants it to be a romantic partnership, while as the other person doesn't. That may or may not create its own set of
and
tensions.
that's the thing is that
Hmm.
there are people you can have a mixed orientation uh relationship. Like you can have an aromantic and a romantic in a QPR and have it work perfectly fine. It's just you have to try your best to communicate what your needs are, what the expectations are, because if the aromantic's like, "Hey, this is never gonna turn romantic ever," and the romantic says, "Well, yes, it is because I said so," you're going to wind up in a lot of trouble. The
Yeah.
thing is that the reason why I'm bringing this up is there are a lot of people who, in that situation, would pose the aromantic as an abuser that's withholding.
Ooh, yeah. Uh
And I
huh.
want to make it clear that while that can happen because anybody can be abusive, painting the other person that way leads to a lot of harm for our community. And we have had a ton of it lately from people who basically have pretty much determined that that we must be hateful people that don't really love anybody, like we can't know what love is, kind of thing.
Oh, for the love of St.
Um,
Goulet.
and while and
Hmm.
while there are aromantics who do say that they don't feel any form of love, and that is okay, that does not mean that we're being assholes who are just withholding love for shits and giggles. Because we have as a community been painted that way several times.
And the other
Hmm.
thing is that, as far as Americans go, and possibly others in the West, they forget that, for example, the Greeks had, what is it, 16 words for love? Um, they recognize, thank you, more than simply eros, the physical love, if you will, or even, I forget if there's another word for the romantic love, but yeah, um, they forget that agape, for example, exists, and that can be as powerful as anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, there are lots of different types of love. You know, you've got the love you have for your family, the love you have for your children, for your friends. Love can be a whole host of things.
Yeah.
And just because you're in a QPR doesn't necessarily mean you don't love your partner. It just means that you're not romantically in love with your partner.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of love, one that we're having to pretty much recreate words for in English because again, we have a tendency to want to put things into an either or box, which does not work. Also, I have had so many people in my life kind of imply that romantic love is the most important and the biggest and the best kind of love. And honestly, like if that's how that works for you, great. But please realize that that's not a universal feeling. When you treat it like a universal, that's when you have the problem.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand that. It's coming up on the 2 year anniversary of my losing my dearest friend in all the world, and as much as I loved him, as much as I still love him, it was definitely not a romantic relationship. Let me tell you guys, not to worry about that. No, Jeff was one of the finest people I ever knew, and it was so sad to lose him. And I suppose I'll be talking about that on air, but that's time for that's grist for another mill. That's for another show. Um, I would sometimes really like to know though how it ever came to be that we got into this pigeonholing thing where you have to have um, a specific definition, and then anything that encroaches upon that definition has to be, doesn't work. So where a QPR has aspects of what people consider romance, what people consider a platonic relationship, but it is neither. How do we come to that point where you have to have one or the other? I don't get that one. I don't know if anybody here does.
Um, my theory is that we want things to be as simple as possible. Just the more complicated stuff gets, the more people resist because it's pretty much, I feel like humans just want things to not be complicated. And so by doing so, we simplify everything down to the most basic things we possibly can to not have to deal with the complexities.
Hmm.
Um, it's one of the reasons why I think everybody loves the computer binary joke. It's like there's only two types of people that are this and people that are this.
Nah. Yeah, there are
Um,
two. There are only two kinds of people: people who divide people into two kinds, and people who don't. Yeah.
yeah, that running joke. Um, there's probably a bunch of other factors involved, but I think that's kind of like the biggest one, in my opinion.
I,
Um,
I, I think another contributing thing is ease of explaining to other people. If you can get into the consciousness of other people, a nice simple term that they'll go, ah, yeah, I get it, rather than having to have an hour-long lecture just to explain your relationship to someone, kind of helps.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's difficult, and the thing is that a lot of the words that a lot of English doesn't really have words for some of these experiences. Like, it's difficult because if you just say to somebody, "Hey, well, a QPR has elements of being romantic and platonic, but it's neither of those things completely, but it's both at the same time," people will look at you and be like, what what in the hell are you on about?"
And they'll come up with Russell's paradox, but that's another story entirely. I like what Greg Hartwig had to say here. He says, when I was young, love was exemplified by Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in all those movies. Yeah, and the next thing I think of is Tracy and Hepburn on screen. Off screen, the relationship was anything but platonic, but that's another story entirely. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah. And people don't realize how much this stuff is pushed. Like, I try not to use the term just friends because um, it if you think about it, it kind of sort of implies that friendship is not at the same level as romantic dealings. And
oh yeah, yeah,
if you ask people like about what makes their relationship romantic, they'll make it sound. I actually asked my friends this once. I got a few responses. It was on Twitter, so I don't mind naming names. Uh, Terrier, Godless Cranium, and a couple of other people were just like telling me, and I was like, I don't get it because it's like you tell me it's the deepest relationship that you have, and I'm like, but I have several of those with several of my friends.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Like, we're not in a relationship, but the amount of love that I have for some of my friends, I'm fairly certain is not what is considered the normal amount.
Yeah.
It's just based on the reactions that I've had in the past. Um, because there have been people who have misconstrued what I've said and done as being romantic. It
Okay
happens
then.
all the time.
Okay then.
And it's
Yeah.
not for me. It never has been.
Yeah, I do know you well enough to know that yeah, you're not into that, definitely.
No.
But yeah, it is confusing. I getting a little better at it at this point because I can look at examples, uh, sets of people that I know that display that sort of relationship, and I never realized, as I said before, that there was a word for it. Is this a recent thing? The word?
Um, I don't know, to be honest. I'm not quite sure. Alhana?
I think it's fairly recent, yeah. Um,
Because the relationship style has been around for a while,
Oh yeah.
but I
mhm.
don't I don't know what was the term. I'm looking it up on the Google because I honestly don't know. 1987.
Oh, older than I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Um, the question though that presents itself, and I suppose this is the most important
Oh
question.
wait, I'm sorry. I've misread 2010. But yeah,
Ah.
Oh,
it's
okay,
still
okay. Yeah, but here's the
yeah.
most important question: do they have a flag?
Um, yeah, we got a flag.
All
Uh,
right.
let me set the link here. This is the official written up stuff. It's essentially there's two different versions. One has a yellow heart, with pink, black, gray, and white stripes. And the other one is just the stripes. Um, if you
Alrighty
want me
then.
to, I can save and send an image for you to put up on the screen, Diana. Give me just a second.
Oh yay, that'll be moo. That'll be very, 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 very moo.
All right.
Actually, no, I'm just using that as filler because I found an image. It's the one with the yellow heart. It's the one I used as
Yeah,
the
yeah.
teaser for this. But send it to me if you want to, because I have a
Well, let me
feeling.
send you the one that you. Let me send you the other version of it then. So,
Ponyo.
do 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 do
That's
do.
perfectly legal Russian, by the way, folks. It means understood.
All right. I will send it to you in our group chat that we made.
Yay, 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 yay.
Um, but yeah, I actually had only I didn't hear about a QPR until I had gotten into the aromantic, started talking with other people in the aromantic community.
Mhm.
Because outside of the aromantic community, I don't know that a lot of people actually uh, know anything about it.
Interesting. What Phil
Um,
Holland
I
has to
and I
say.
get a lot of and I gotta get a lot of resistance
Hmm.
when I actually talk about it. Um,
Okay. Yeah, Phil Holland said something interesting here. He says the cynic in me thinks romance is the material exchange in gifts and trinkets in the hopes of sex. And a lot of people see it that way, I think, unfortunately. Hello.
yeah, I can't really comment on that because like I said, the whole thing basically confuses the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm. But hello, Ann Salvatore. How are you? You're a new person, I can tell, because you don't have a spanner yet. We may fix that. We'll see. Um, but that is something I knew of with friends having sex, um, not necessarily in a romantic involvement. So I knew that existed. Um, I just didn't know it was part of another movement, if you will. I see that Phil likes, yeah, the whole thing there.
Well, I mean, uh, I'm sorry, my brain went blank.
Mm.
Um,
These things are a little difficult for me to understand sometimes. I'm demisexual, so I really, really need a deep commitment to somebody before I'll start thinking about sex. And it's amazing, by the way, what HRT will do to the libido. Um, because
Yeah.
35 years ago, I would screw anything with a pulse. Uh, but yeah, since I began my transition, since the anti-androgen started, the whole libido thing took a nosedive, and I think I'm better off for it.
Yeah, can definitely relate to that. I mean, even back when I was sexually active in like my 20s and such, um, I never enjoyed it. I could enjoy pleasuring a partner, but I never got personal enjoyment from it. Um,
Okay.
and then I did come to the realization that I was demisexual. So I just got bored of just sex for sex sake,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and and thought, heard the term demisexual. Was like, yes, that's me. I don't particularly like sex, but I will do it if I have a big enough connection. And yeah, that's
And in
to say
case
what led me
anybody,
into my last relationship. And since then, it's just like I'm sex ambivalent asexual.
there
Just
we go. And yeah, demisexual does not mean interested in sex with people named Demi. Any ordinary you have no fears, okay?
yeah. And for me, sex and romance, to me, anybody, I'm trying to think of how to word this. I found out that I cannot keep partnership feels because, again, I don't feel romantic towards anybody. I cannot continue to have partnership feels for somebody after having had sex with them.
Oh,
For me, those two things don't combine and don't compute.
moo.
So for me, I would, if I were to get into to another relationship of some sort, sex would be completely off the table. I could not do that. And I want to reiterate that queer platonic relationships can have elements of sex in them
Yeah,
because it's not about your sexual identity. It's about whether or not romance is actually involved in the relationship for the queer platonic relationships. I just want to reiterate that again because we've had some people come in kind of late.
yeah. And
Um,
for those who
mhm.
wonder, sex and romance are not synonymous. Yeah,
No,
absolutely not.
they're not. For some people it's an element that they need in their relationship and their romance, and I get that. But for others, sex may not be a romantic thing at all. So
Mm-hmm.
do keep that in mind.
Greg says someone defined a friend as a person who will help you move. My friends would do that were they not so old. I know the feeling, honey. I know that feeling. Oh my. Greg and I are from the same generation, so I get it.
Yeah, and the thing is that another part of this is having very strict definitions does not help with this. The more you try to more clearly define a lot of these things, the more you kind of miss the overall picture.
Yeah.
Which is why, in general, I just tend to avoid definitions.
Hmm.
I prefer to do explanations because, um, like I said, when you start trying to define it, uh, every partnership is going to have different rules. Some people are going to go polyamorous and have a polycule and have lots of people in their polycule, and some people in the polycule might be in queer platonic relationships, some might be in romantic relationships. Others might, live on the same property and not actually live in the same house. It's all defined by the people involved.
Hmm. Yeah, this is where uh, vanillas could really take a leaf out of the kink community.
Oh.
When starting a relationship, you have these discussions up front. What's
Ah.
expected, what's
Oh,
off the table, and yeah, make sure everyone involved is on the same page. Otherwise, things can get messy.
yeah, I find the general notion dealing with most people who think of romantic stuff, they want like mystery and like spontaneity, and and it's to some people take it to such a degree where it's basically like, let's try it first and find out if it's okay later. And that kind of thinking really scares the hell out of me. And I'm not saying that every
Mhm.
romantic person is like this or all romantic elements are like this, but the fact that so many people think that that's romantic just really freaks me out, because it's
Mhm.
like, no, why not just sit down and throw everything on the table and figure it out talking before you wind up getting before you go, "Oh, wait, I seriously hurt you because I didn't know and we didn't communicate this beforehand."
Well, this is one place I can see it getting a little bit difficult because, when you mention, let's try this and see if we like it, what happens when neither party or any of the parties, let's put it that way, let's get, a poly thing going here, don't know what they are in for?
People get hurt and then hopefully they learn later. I mean, I hate to be that way, but that's literally what happens. When you don't know the words, when you don't have the way to communicate, when you don't know the options available, you're going to bump around not knowing what you're doing and wind up getting you or other people hurt. And this is why
Mhm.
Alhana and I talk so much about this stuff um, on our accounts, because we want people to find this information, and even if they can't use it, maybe somebody else can. Because I spent the first 30 years of my life getting hurt and hurting other people because I literally didn't have a way to communicate what my needs were, and I also thought that I had to do things a certain way in order to do all of the things that are expected of me as a human being.
Mhm.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah,
my.
I can relate to that. And again, getting into the kink community, helped me with communicating my needs. Because, yeah, I'm on the spectrum. I don't deal with mystery and surprise very well. I like to know what's coming and what.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, anxiety just like builds and builds, and yeah, that's going to go badly. And it's why a QPR would be so good for me, because just socializing for long periods of time is just incredibly draining for me. So, a relationship where I know I've got companionship with someone that I care about, but they don't care if I need time away, just for myself to recharge.
Oh my! I like the line from Brighton Beach Memoirs when the two sisters are taking up separate residences. I forget which sister was which, but the one said, "Yeah, I'm moving out, but just across the street, close enough to come over, far enough away to close the door."
And
Yeah.
for me, I'm intense, so I would be totally cool with my partner, like, being in my face all the time, because 'cause I'm the kind of person where it's like, if I like you enough, I it takes a very, very, very long time for me to get tired of you. So, for me, I would actually have probably the opposite of Alhana and be like, "Listen, I want to do things with you all the time." Now granted, if I know that because I'm the intense one, if I were to get involved with somebody, I would be like, hey, if you get to a point where you need time and I'm not giving that to you, please let me know because I am completely oblivious. Will not fucking notice unless you tell me to my face. Please don't wait till you're tired of me till you're so tired of me you can't stand me anymore to be like, look, you need to back off a little bit.
Oh my!
Um, but for me, a QPR would be more okay. These are the things that I would like to do: live together, you know, have have pets together, uh,
Hmm.
you know, make decisions together, do all the cute, affectionate things, do hobbies together, like all of those things. But I don't have romantic feelings and don't expect me to put certain things in. Like, I'm not ever going to do a candlelight dinner. I find it confusing.
No.
Hmm.
I'm not ever going to uh to you know there's certain romantic things that I'm not going to be able to do, and asking me to act those things out would wind up draining me because, like I said earlier, it feels like a performance.
Um.
But I
Yeah.
would but I would have far more romantic looking elements in my QPR if an outsider was looking in, probably than what Alhana is describing.
Okay then.
Mm. Yeah. When I was in relationships, I always dreaded Valentine's Day, because
Oof.
partners always expected something to happen on Valentine's Day, either going out for a meal or cooking a meal at home, candlelight, and it's like, what's the point? Yeah, we'll do all this, and then we'll just sit and eat and talk or barely talk, because what have we got to talk about? We spend all our time together. What's the point?
Yeah, and for me, having a like, I understand anniversaries. I
Hmm.
understand anniversaries to a degree because I have anniversaries of sorts
Mm.
with certain friends.
Yep.
So I kind of get that. But
Hmm.
the here is a specific day where you have to act super romantic, even though we technically do this all the time. And if you're in a romantic relationship and you're not doing it all the time and you're not happy with that fact, that 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 needs to be fixed somehow.
Hmm.
I
Oh
can't
my!
tell you how because that's not my deal. I don't get it.
And we
But
just. Hmm? What?
the thing is that, like, I don't understand a specific day where you have to hype up the extra romance.
Mm.
That everybody is supposed to like perform in this weird ritual where like all of a sudden you have to act like the other 364 days don't count.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And we have a new people here, and we have the one, the only, the brilliant, the beautiful purple rhymes with orange has come into the side chat. How you doing, honey? Yay!
Hey,
Purple,
Purple.
purple might be one
What
person to talk to about this.
in in true fashion between me and Diana, uh we kind of did this last minute. There was no advertising.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Well, I know that you had a little bit of a difficulty there. You had the family stuff going on, and you had some people to look after, and that really screwed things up. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I did. Um, but the thing is that I what I love about most about Valentine's Day is when it ends and the arrows are like, all right, all right, all right, y'all have had your Valentine's Day. Now we're gonna have a fucking week.
well, that's what some people are after for Valentine's
Well,
Day.
no, 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 no. The aromantics have Arrow Week. It starts the first Sunday after Valentine's Day.
Hey, I like that idea. I really do.
So we basically go, all right, you've been romantic. Guess what? The arrows are coming in. Now y'all can sit down. We can have our fun.
Yeah.
That's enough from all of you.
Okay, hopefully this has fixed something, because, yeah, Purple mentioned that I'm sounding quiet compared to the two of you girls. That happens because if I burst out in laughter or something like that, and am a little bit louder than usual, my automatic gain turns the mic down. And I really hate it when it does that, but I don't know how to turn that off.
Yeah, that's odd. I'm not technical. I cannot fix that. Um, but yeah, Arrow Week is an entire week. It's the Sunday after they start it the Sunday after Valentine's Day. Um, just to kind of just as kind of our almost a response. I will be honest. It's basically a reaction. Um, because it's difficult on a normal day because watching people throw so much emphasis on romance and treating it like the ultimate form of love can be extremely alienating. There
Yes.
have been times growing up where I didn't even really fucking feel human. And Valentine's Day, no matter how much I tell myself it's not a big deal, I can ignore it or I don't have to participate in it, Valentine's Day always hits me hard
Yeah.
and I always feel a little bit alienated. And it's not quite the same feeling as being single because with being single there's an implication that you still have those feelings and that you're possibly going to find somebody someday.
Oh, I understand that one, because the same sort of thing happens to the child free, where people assume that you simply don't have kids and you want kids, and I can tell you that no, that doesn't always
Yeah,
work that
it's
way.
you you get similar reactions and a lot of the effects are the same are similar, but it is a slightly different experience
Mm-hmm.
than because that person still doesn't that person may feel lonely or upset or like things are going wrong, but typically the feeling of not being human is not there. It's when you have that lack of feelings because when you talk with people who try to define the human experience, a lot of times they'll throw in romantic love into the mix.
Uh-huh.
And and people don't realize they're doing that. They really don't because it for them it's so much a part of their a part of what's considered normal that you just don't give it a passing thought.
I like what Purple has to say here. Purple says, I always hated Valentine's Day. I hate all the artificially created holidays. The only good ones are the half price chocolate days when the candy goes on clearance. I have come to hate those because since my kidneys fell out, I can't have chocolate.
Oh, oof.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
that.
my.
Oh no, that's almost as bad as the no coffee thing.
Yeah, huh?
Which I know you've basically said fuck that. I'm drinking my coffee. So
Well, even in the renal diet guides, they tell you, yeah, you can have the coffee. My problem is that even now I drink quite a bit, and this this cup over here, I discovered this morning that it holds a pint. So every time I have one of these cups of coffee, that's a pound of fluid going into me that my drainage system isn't taking out anymore because my kidneys are shot. So it comes out in dialysis, and if they take too much at once, I start having muscle cramps, and that's not comfortable. No. Okay, let's get back on
um,
track.
Greg, I saw Greg's comment. I've never liked times anniversaries when exchanging gifts were required. For me, I don't actually exchange gifts very often. When I say an anniversary, I mean stuff like one of my closest friends and I actually go out and eat at a particular place on the day that I submitted my Mormon resignation,
Oh, I think
basically.
you've mentioned that previously.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where we both go out, we spend time with one another. I'm not a big gift giver, and when I am, it's usually something uh, like a made gift. But for me, anniversary doesn't necessarily mean gift giving. It's more of a, this is a specific time I've set aside that we can enjoy each other's company and go out and stuff. And I
Yeah.
have several of them with friends. There are several of them where it's like around X date we want to memorialize something that cool that happened. And it's not always necessarily like, cuz most people when they think anniversary they think, like the day we first met, or the day, or this was our first kiss, or things along that
Mm-hmm.
nature. For me, it's just, okay, what cool thing do we want to celebrate? And it doesn't necessarily have to have any romantic inclinations whatsoever.
I've got one of those coming up tomorrow. The last time that I saw my dear friend Jeff, well, the only time he came out here, was the 16th of September 2 years ago. He took me to the hospital for one of the tests I had to have, and we went to a place called Burgatory and had one of those non-meat hamburgers, which was actually really good, and a bourbon milkshake, which was even better. And I was thinking of going to that same place tomorrow and just to remember the event because I miss him terribly, and unfortunately, tomorrow is the anniversary of that, and the 18th, 2 years ago, he died.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
know
that's
that
another
that's hit you hard.
that's another
I
anniversary that is not fun.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, for me, around October 15th, I usually get together with one of my oldest friends. Basically, this friend knew me when I was still very, very Mormon, and I don't know how the hell she put up with me. Um,
Somehow I just can't see you as very, very Mormon. I am always seeing you
yeah,
rebelling.
yeah, it's, oh, that trust me, I was very much into it. There but she she was the first person I basically told after I told family, because I told them because I didn't want them to be blindsided, because I knew that even though the church is technically not supposed to, they did,
Yeah,
they
huh?
they would. But for me, it's going off with her. We usually cruise around town for about an hour or so, listening to the Book of Mormon musical, basically as high as we can handle it, as far as volume goes. And then after the musical is over, uh, we she parks at our favorite restaurant, and we go and we get beer cheese soup, because even though I can't drink alcohol because it makes two sips and I basically am done because I'm always tired. We get stuff like beer cheese soup, which has beer in it. So it's still kind of a little bit rebellious because Mormonism is so strict about alcohol, you're not even supposed to cook with it.
Oh, wow. That's horrible because you lose a lot of good recipes that way.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
mean, some of the less strict people will actually like be like, well, it doesn't say you can't cook with it, but the majority of Mormons won't even buy it or use it. Um, but yeah, that's actually one of my favorite anniversaries is just that particular day we get together and just go out and have fun. And and that's something that people typically would think, okay, well, it's an anniversary, you do that with your partner. And it's like, but she's not. There's
Yeah.
no partnership involved there between us. That has been made very clear by, over the years that we've known each other. It's been 20 years that we've known each other.
But yeah, Mormons are good at finding the loopholes. Oh, can't have
Yeah.
caffeine. Oh, but that's only for coffee, not for cola. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is
Um,
interesting. I mean, the assumptions people make about anniversaries, I just looked up the etymology, and it comes from the Latin for year turning.
yeah.
So it's returning yearly, and that makes all the sense. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an erotic thing, or it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. It's just something that recurs every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when you say
Mhm.
anniversary, the first thought that pops into most people's head is romantic.
Uh huh. Yeah. Wedding
Yeah,
anniversary is usually number one.
wedding anniversary or like, the anniversary of when we started dating, if you haven't gotten married, things along that nature is usually the first thing to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a subtle way of explaining how people throw romance as the ultimate highest form of love when like I said, that's not how it is for everybody. But even people who are arrow will often realize that they're doing that too, that when they think of something specific, they'll be like, oh shit, I'm thinking of the romantic version,
Yeah. Huh.
because it's so prevalent and so everywhere.
That was an easy hurdle for me to clear. My latest ex and I were together for 11 years. She made it clear that she did not want to get married, and I didn't want to get married either because I had been through a marriage and divorce years prior to that, and it was not fun. And I was also not in a financial position where I could get married. Were I to have gotten married, I would have lost a lot of benefits. And it was like, yeah, okay, you don't want to get married, I'm fine with it. And it's just a lot of the other things that took a while for me to get rid of, but that was the easiest. Yeah. Yeah, skeptic. Mormonism definitely bans coffee and tea too. Oh my word! What? Because of the caffeine?
Um, that is a story for another time because I don't want to get too far on that tangent.
Fine with me. That's something else
But
to talk about on another show. That's good for
yeah,
me.
but long story short, Joseph's wife said, "Hey, we're tired of cleaning up your mess after the boys have drinks and chewing tobacco." And Joseph went to quote unquote pray, and then came back and said, "Okay, well, yeah, we'll stop doing the chewing tobacco and the uh, and the alcohol, but you ladies have to give up your tea and coffee." That's not doctrine, but that's my opinion based on some of the historical evidence that I've seen and some of the way the scriptures are written. Um,
Oh
Sounds
and
my.
about
also at the
right.
time, soda was considered medicine, so keep that in mind too.
Yes, that one I do remember. Yeah. That
Yeah, soda
you
was just coming out around that time and was being used as medicine, which is why it's not in the word of wisdom.
and it's also why you found soda fountains at pharmacies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. So it's but yeah, that's essentially what that is. But from like I said, for me, a lot of my anniversaries are just basically celebrations of a particular day that mean something to me.
Mhm.
Um, and when I think of anniversaries, I typically think of my friends. I don't think of the wedding anniversaries right off the bat, but it took me a while to realize that that was something subtle that I didn't realize that I was doing because I hadn't been taught any different. I hadn't thought any different. Um,
And as a
and
matter of fact,
that's not something that I expect other people to do or think other people should do. It's just that's how I break down things so that I don't feel as alienated.
yeah. Hmm. And
Mhm.
then too, it's it's not solely that you weren't taught that the anniversaries were things other than but you were taught to expect that they be. Because I got a lot of that stuff too, where I was expected to get married and produce kids. In my case, to carry on the family name, because remember I'm trans. And I was trying to do the guy thing back then, and it wasn't. It was failing miserably. And then when I turned up child free, that was a point in my disfavor. Yeah. So I kind of get that one. Oh,
Um,
interesting.
Greg Hartwick asks, are there legal implications of QPR for the people involved, the usual marriage and death inheritance stuff? Um, that varies. It again depends on the people involved. Some want the legal protections, so they go through the legal loop, the legal hoops. Um, but I don't know how prevalent it is. I don't know if that's common or if that's just something that a lot of people skip over. I will say this, if you wind up in a QPR, the likelihood that family around you will accept that is very, very fucking low.
Uh,
There have been a lot of stories in the aromatic community of a partner passing away or getting sick and needing to be taken care of by family that the partner couldn't do for one reason or another. And basically, when that partner gets sick or dies, the 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 surviving partner gets absolutely zero recognition
Mhm.
because again, people treat a lot of these things like quote unquote just friendship. Your friends don't typically make every major life decision with you. So therefore when one partner is gone, the other partner was just a friend, so why does it matter? Why do they need to be involved? They're a friend. Friends don't get involved in this stuff. And that's
BS.
why it is BS, but it's pretty damn common.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
so that's why again, Ohana and I talk so much about a lot of these things is because you don't. In my opinion, you shouldn't have to have marriage to have those legal protections.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Now, you mentioned that you and Alhana talk about this. Is that on channel that you guys talk about these things?
I mostly use Twitter, and I'm not sure if Twitter is Ohana's main space or not. Ohana?
At the moment, it is. I've not put anything on my YouTube channel for a while because it just takes so long to edit
Oh,
things because I'm
God,
not
tell me
very good
about
at
it.
editing.
Yeah, and I also uh needed a break from certain things. So my channel is up, but I privated all of the videos until I know which ones I want to redo and which ones I want to release again. So I'm mostly on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay,
Um,
because I was wondering where I could direct people to hear the things you two
I
had to say. Yeah.
Yeah, on my Twitter profile, I have pinned quite a few tweets that are kind of like introductions to basically like aromantic, aromantic and asexual stuff. So you can find those. I will say this, I believe I have links to Avon, which is our asexual organization, our first asexual website that we've had. I would be wary of the updated definitions. I don't normally point this kind of thing out, but they kind of made asexuality sound more binary than it is
Oh,
with their new updated stuff. So please take that with a grain of salt. Um,
I'm not
but
allowed to have that stuff
otherwise,
either.
well, the reason I point this out is I really don't want to take that resource down because it would break the link in my pinned chain, and I really don't want to redo the whole damned thing.
Okay, then.
Um, but yeah, take that with a grain of salt because they made it sound like asexuality is like full on no sexual attraction, and that's not the case.
I still have to get
Uh,
past that one because I still have that difficulty understanding that because, when I think asexual, I think without sex. And yeah, I have to admit that I cannot easily understand how some asexual folks seem to like sex occasionally. You know,
Yeah, it's because for most people, your attractions and your drive and your desire often match up enough that you don't have to think about it. But
Mhm.
for some of us, I guess I could say the best way I could put it is those things don't work together and often work on their own. Um,
oh, there we are.
because sometimes I'm in the mood, but I'm not attracted to anybody and can't think of who in the hell I would actually do that with. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think I think sex would be nice with that person, but I don't have any drive or desire. So it's really weird. Um, but there's also a link to Aria, which is the aromantic version of it. Um, Aurea is the aromantic website that we use as a resource. A lot of the things that we've talked about today are actually on that site.
Oh,
Um, so I will see if I can find a
I
link
was going to ask if you could
to
have that on
that.
the side chat. Yeah, that would be
Yeah, I could
great
put
for
that
some of
in the
these
side
folks.
chat for sure. Um,
Mhm.
let's see.
Yeah, basically, there are lots of different types of asexuals. You can be sex averse asexual, you can be sex repulsed asexual, um, sex ambivalent asexual, sex positive asexual. Just because you're not don't experience the sexual attraction doesn't mean that you're not attracted by other ways and are open to sex.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and the link that I shared
Oh, yeah.
has a lot of stuff. The same with romance. There are people who don't feel romantic attraction who actually desire romantic type things and are
Mhm.
actually have romantic feelings. So that that can happen too. And I realize that that's kind of also hard to grasp,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but um, it's essentially what it is, what attraction is, the best way that I know how to verbalize it, because it's kind of hard, is it is towards a particular person Um,
Okay.
it's directed at a person specifically. So if you have, say, romantic inclinations, but you don't have them ever directed at anybody, they're just there, then you can be aromantic. If that is how you choose to identify, and if that is a term that you feel fits for you. Um, but it's basically if you don't have it directed at somebody, you don't have the attraction,
And if you don't
but it
like
can exist.
and if you don't like that term, peanut butter and jelly works too if you don't mind.
Mhm.
No, huh?
Yeah.
It is. To
Uh,
me, I'm an old fogey. Okay, I'm well over 60. And I come from an era where there were binaries everywhere. And I do sometimes have a hard time coming to terms with a lot of this. And I think some of the people in the side chat may have the same sort of thing going on. And all I can say to you guys is, yeah, there is hope. So, just keep at it, and maybe we'll all come to understand everything.
And to be
mhm.
honest, I think in some ways we've gotten a little bit better. I think there's still a lot of resistance all around. Um, Again, because I really feel like people just want shit to be simple. Um,
Mm,
Mhm.
but it's hard when you've distinctly categorized things in such a way. And I realize that it's not easy exactly for other people to grasp. Hell, a lot of us who lived it fucking are finding this shit out at like 30, 40, 50 years old.
Mhm.
Because
children.
it's not there. It's not there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but the thing is that I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to appear that are saying, "Hey, I'm figuring this out as early as 14."
Well, that's a
Um,
good thing. That can
yeah.
be nothing but
Um,
good. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm figuring this out at 14, or I'm figuring this out at 20, or and it's happening more and more, which makes me grateful because that's around the age where where you feel an extreme pressure to try to fit in.
Yeah.
Have you
Um,
got a boyfriend or girlfriend yet?
uh-huh. Yeah. And
Oh my
also,
Ah.
lord.
like, and also you're a teenager, so you want to be like everybody else. You
Mhm.
want, you don't want to be that weirdo that everybody is like, something is wrong with you. So a lot of aces actually wind up because they don't, or in arrows, wind up getting involved with people not realizing who or what they are, and basically bumping around trying to figure out why it's not working or why they feel drained or why people are getting hurt.
Yeah, I know
And
somebody who
that's the
was
best
talking
way.
about some of that. I'm trying to remember her name.
Yeah, yeah. There was part of why I struggled to even think about getting involved again is because so much effort went into trying to be something I wasn't, that I'm still burned out, even though I haven't technically been in a relationship at all in 15 years. Like,
Hmm.
just the thought of even doing that again and risking, well, what if I think that's what I want, but it winds up that it's not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't. I, even if those feelings are there, which they do pop up sometimes, where I do want a partnership with a specific person, I often will just like act like those feelings aren't even there. And again, those feelings are rare. We're talking every few years. So
Oh, so
I don't want somebody to go off and be like, "Oh, you have those feelings. What the fuck are you going on about being aro for?"
so you're doing a sort of a pon far thing, right? Like Spock.
Yeah. No, not really. Close, but not really.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, Purple says, at what age was I a new fogey? I seem to have missed it.
Okay, there.
And also, she says, I am envious of the people who are starting to transition to high school. I will admit to a little bit of envy to hearing people say, oh, hey, I'm aromantic, or oh, hey, I'm asexual in high school. Because for me, pretty much the extent of my high school stuff was looking around at my friends going, fuck, I don't think I'm up for any of this bullshit.
Uh, and this is
And and then like putting it to the side and being like, okay, well, I'm not allowed to date till I'm 18 anyway. So I mean, it's not a big deal. But that's the thing, is that I realized as early as 16, looking around at my friends going, I don't think I'm relationship material. I don't think I ever will be. Oh, well, I'll just deal with it another time.
there you go. And this is where I'm thinking that the information age can be nothing but a good thing, where people are starting to find out what's going on a lot earlier, because it's out there to be had. This is something that my age peers did not have in the 1970s. Well, hell, the internet wasn't even invented yet. I think
Yeah.
RFC1 came out only in 1969, and that wasn't the World Wide Web yet. And I think that a lot of people are threatened so much by the information age now because the information is so freely available and it is so good for people to have it as long as they know what to do with it.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the UK under Section 28, which for anyone that doesn't know what Section 28 was in the UK, most people in the LGBT community know of the Russian gay propaganda laws.
Oh my
You know,
word. Okay.
we basically had our own version here, which was called Section 28 of the Education Act, blah, blah, blah. But gay lifestyles, gay people weren't allowed to be taught in schools, weren't allowed to be spoken about in school. There's the famous video out there of Margaret Thatcher talking about how it's essentially degenerate to teach these lifestyles as a pretended relationship dynamic. And yeah, so I grew up under that.
Well,
I
Aunt
grew
Maggie
up
was not my favorite person.
Yeah. And
uh-huh. So I grew up in the infancy of gay being the slur that it is now. I know the derivation of it, and yeah, that's a whole nother tangent. But yeah, I get the being envious of the younger trans generation being able to transition so early, because I did feel it then, but I had to repress it. I
Yeah.
had to lean into being male, but it never felt right.
Yeah, huh?
But now we're putting in the work. We're making it easier for the next generation, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
To know the sorts of things that were going on, say 50 years ago, one need only look at the stories of people like Lynn Conway, for example, who transitioned in the late 60s, lost her job at IBM over it. They say that Thomas Watson was involved in getting rid of her. Thomas Watson was the president and CEO of IBM at the time. And
Aye.
yeah, just what she describes was horrible. And well, that's one of the reasons I didn't begin my transition until I was in my 50s. 2009 was when I started.
Yeah, I started mine a little over 10 years ago. So,
Oh, so
and
we
that
started
was,
about the same time.
yeah, I'm a bit younger. So I was in my early 30s at the time, but yeah.
Okay, then. Yeah, I'm so envious of you folks that were able to do that sort of thing. I'm so envious of the folks that are able to at least begin trying to decide whether or not they are indeed trans and need to begin something, the kids at the ages of, single digits. I wished that I could have done that. And I knew that,
Hmm.
were I to say a word about it, I would be a 10-year-old on the streets.
Uh,
So, yeah, I get it. But we're starting to get a little off track. Do we have any other information that the good people out there might want to know?
Yeah, if there's any questions or any clarifications y'all want, go ahead and put them in the side chat. I've been trying to watch the side chat a little bit. I don't catch
mhm.
everything, but yeah. Um, some of the big things that I want to reiterate: aromantic and asexual are not the same thing. Um, queer platonic relationships can have nothing to do whether or not there are sexual elements in it. It has to do with whether or not the two people see the relationship and the elements and it as romantic. Um, and yeah, I if I were to ever get involved again, that's the kind of thing that I would probably want is something queer platonic. Um,
Yeah.
And Greg Hartwick has to take off, so you be good and have fun, hon. And
all right,
if not
let me.
before, I'll see you on Sunday. So, yay, something like that. Whoops.
And something else that we've kind of mentioned
Oh,
about a couple of times about how people don't really realize how much romance is involved in things. I'm also going to drop the Amata normativity uh link that I have if I can find it, where it explains a lot of the things that people don't really realize. Uh, the subtle things uh, that make romance put on kind of a pedestal. So
Hmm.
alrighty. Yeah, we're starting to come up on 90 minutes, and that may be pretty good. I don't want to tire you two out, and I don't want to bore everybody in the side chat there. We got about five
yeah,
people
because I
left.
think I think Alhana and I have covered everything.
That sounds
Uh,
good to
Yeah, I would
me.
say so.
Any last words? Um,
um, Thank you for having us. I enjoyed coming on for the stream. Um, and thank you for giving the opportunity. Especially since I had said that a lot of times arrows feel like we're kind of on our own.
Hmm.
Um, I appreciate that you stepped in almost immediately and offered to do this. So
Aye.
I
it's
just
just
I just want to say I'm glad for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was just a matter of getting around to doing it. Yeah, well, you had your things,
Yeah.
and then I had my things going on too. So sorry about that, because I know we were supposed to have done this 11 days ago, but Priya
Yeah.
had her
Yeah.
things, family things going on, and that really took precedence.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right, and Alhana, anything you got?
Uh, yeah, uh, basically echoing what Tria was saying. Thank you for doing this. It's great to be able to get this knowledge out there, and it's been a fun 90 minutes. It's been awesome.
Yay! And at the risk of taking this thing for another 6 hours, I notice in the corner there. Um, Now your Google names show up there, and I see Alhana Escher. Is that anything like Moritz Escher, the
Um,
graphic artist?
Yes. That's
Aha!
yes. That was the inspiration for the name.
That is my favorite graphic artist, by the way. I
Hmm.
dearly love Escher's stuff. I used to have Escher
Oh
prints
yes.
all over the place, and they did not survive the many moves between my second time at school and today, because I find it difficult to believe that was 25 years ago, but another story entirely.
Uh,
I definitely want to thank you, and I want to thank Tria for coming on, and I want to thank everybody in the side chat for coming by. I want to thank everybody who's here. I want to thank everybody who's not here. You guys are great. I keep saying it, and I keep meaning it. As long as you keep coming by for this stuff, and as long as I'm alive to do it, I will be more than happy to accommodate you. How does that sound? So I'll think of something else to do, and if I don't think of something else between now and Sunday, I'll see you guys on Sunday. How does that sound? I will say, thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.